or how do you not get taken advantage of? The first thing is know what you're asking for. Know
Right.
why you want to do this before you go in. Don't give up that power to somebody else, right?
Right.
Want to get externally from doing this book. It could be money, it could be fame, it could be recognition, validation, all of those external things. And then the most important part is the second part of the why, which is internal, and that is why are you doing it for you inside.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back. It is another week and another week of Leaders Talk. As usual, I'm Andrew Dupe. I am the Chief Relationship Officer here at Leaders Press, and today I am joined by Jennie Nash after a bunch of reschedules, technical issues on my end. But I'm glad that we finally got Jennie here. Let me introduce Jennie. Jennie is the CEO and the founder of Author Accelerators. So what they do is they train and they help certify book coaches. Very relevant to our business. They're leading the way in this new industry, and they're trying to establish standards of excellence in book coaching. Jennie, welcome.
Thank
And
you. Thanks for
tell
having
us a
me.
little bit about that. That's interesting. I'm fascinated to see what standards we're going to be holding book coaches to here, as a book
Well,
coach myself.
yes, of course. The first thing is to make sure folks know what a book coach is. It is
Yep.
a new thing that has come up with the changes in the publishing industry. And a book coach is someone who helps a writer through the entire creative process. So we know what a ghostwriter is. A ghostwriter is someone who's
Mhm.
going to come in and help you write the book. We know what an editor is, which is someone who comes in once the book is written to help make it better. A book coach is somebody who works with you throughout the creative process to actually do the work. So hold you accountable if you're wanting to do the writing your own self.
Mhm.
Hold you accountable and give you editorial feedback, marketplace intelligence, and project management support so you can write your best book.
Yeah, and that's definitely something of interest to our audience, because many people that are listening right now are in the process of perhaps writing their first book, or perhaps thinking about writing their first book with help. So, what does a book coach do for you in a day-to-day basis? Let's say that you're thinking about getting a book coach to help you through the writing process. What are you looking for?
Well, I think the first thing to address is that extremely important thing that you just said, which is getting help, right? The
Yeah. Yeah.
writing a book is an incredibly complex intellectual and creative process. It's a hard thing. And for most experts who are in your audience, it's particularly hard because they're very, very good at what they do. They're top of the game at what they do. And when they think about wanting to write a book and the incredible ROI of writing a book, they often get overwhelmed at the thought of, well, how do I do this? I have these
Mhm.
ideas, I have methods, I have frameworks, I have so much I want to say, but how on earth do I approach this? And it can be very daunting. So the first thing just to talk about is asking for help is a thing a lot of people do. So it is
Yeah.
you are not supposed to know how this works. It's not your area of expertise, right? So that's thing one. And with a book coach, what we're going to be doing is first really helping the writer to understand, what is this idea? Who is it for? How is it going to function in your business? That's a really important question. How are you going to use this book once it's out there? How are you going to connect with potential readers and customers and bring them into your universe with this book? What do you want it to be? That's thing one. And once we pin the idea to the page, then it's going to be actually writing forward. And a typical
Mhm.
book coaching process is that the writer's turning in pages usually every other week. And we are reading them, looking over them, giving comments on them, and then having a discussion with the writer about what's working, what's not working. And it's everything from line by line editorial questions to really big questions such as voice and stepping into your power and really making sure that you are writing the book that you're going to love and be proud of. So it's all the different elements of what writing actually entails.
Yeah. What do you say? I know that one of the main objections that I hear when someone is either looking to engage us to have a ghostwriter or looking to engage us in just getting direct coaching to write their book, they're afraid of how much of their voice that they feel like they have to surrender in order to bring in a third party to begin to work with them. What do you say to that fear when someone comes to you and says, I mean, coach, I don't know if I want to coach because is it going to be my book or is it going to be Jeannie's book when it's done?
It's a great question, and it is a question at the top of a lot of people's minds. And I think you have to be quite careful, actually.
Mm,
It's what you were talking about before in terms of standards of excellence. That is one of the things that we're working really hard to make
yeah,
sure that our coaches are, it's not our book, it's not our idea, it's not whether I think that's the right way to go or not. It's not, it has nothing to do with that, and it shouldn't have anything to do with that. It needs to be what works for you. What do you want? What do you think? What do you visualize? What would be a win for you?
yeah,
What does that look like? And making sure that the writer is centered, and it's critically important, because you're right, it's very easy to give up your your story, your integrity. I don't mean that someone's going to steal it. I'm not, that's not what I'm talking about. I
yeah, no.
That's like a whole other thing, and I like to believe it's not something you have to really worry about. People,
Not very often in our experience, honestly, but yeah.
no. And to be honest, and this is actually the root of what you and I are talking about today, an idea is worthless. An idea means nothing.
Mhm.
It's like, great, you have a great idea for a book, or you have a great thing that you already are teaching, a methodology or a framework or a system. None of that means anything. It What means something is when you codify it. So that's
Mhm.
true in your business. When you start teaching, using, doing, spreading your message, that's when it has power. And same with the book. You can tell me that you have 10 book ideas and they're so great and you don't want to share them because you're worried someone's going to take them, but what matters is getting it on the page, and what we were talking about before, getting it on the page in your voice. So
Mm.
you and I happen to be talking in the weeks following the explosion of AI software onto the scene,
I
right?
know.
And
I actually used it this afternoon.
right,
At
it's,
one point.
everybody's talking about it, everybody's worried about it, everybody's excited about it, all the things. And it really gets at what we're talking about. What is a voice, and what difference does it make if somebody, let's just take an idea that is quite common in a business book, something like the idea of trust, and
Yeah.
how to trust your team, how to build trust, how to bank trust, how to use the trust that you've built up, something like that. There could be 100 books on this idea that all come out next month, and they're all going to have similar-ish things in them. What's going to differentiate your book from somebody else's book is your voice. And that's only a thing that you can bring. And what does it mean? What does that even mean, voice? It means how you think, how you speak, the experiences that you bring to this idea, the stories that you tell, the language that you use, the way that you think and process and put these things together. And the books that we love as readers, somebody's bringing that. They're bringing their
Mhm.
full heart, their full energy, and you can feel it. That's what's so powerful, is you can feel that resonance and that connection. And you finish reading a book and you just think, oh, this I get an idea that I've been circling around my whole life or thinking about my whole life. I finally get it in a different way. And that's what we're after, is that you-ness, that specific you-ness of the thing. And a very good ghostwriter is going to be able to help you capture that. And a very good book coach is going to be able to help you
Mhm.
produce that. So it's the same, we're looking for the same thing. It's just different ways of getting to it.
And you see, the mention of trust, it brings me back a little bit to something that we talked about earlier in the interview, and just the idea of establishing standards of excellence, because this is Wild West now.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we talked about Chat GPT Wild West, but actually hybrid publishing, self-publishing is really new. It's not, I mean, hybrid publishing is growing, but it's nowhere nearly as large or nowhere nearly as small as it was just a few years ago. and it's becoming almost as large as traditional publishing. So that becomes the question: how do you establish standards in this? Because there are going to be people that are going to come into this and just say, all I got to do is stitch some transcripts together and help this person write a book, and I don't have to do anything, as opposed to someone who's really going to get in there and help. So what do we do to guard against that? How do we find out that a good book coach?
Well, I mean, you're right. It is pretty slippery out there. Right? There's a lot of people that can help you to write and produce and publish a book. And the question to me goes back again always to the writer. And that is, why are you doing this? So
Mm,
you need to the writer needs to understand why they're doing it. And by that I mean, okay, you want to write a book because probably people have a book.
mm,
Probably you're doing speaking events, keynotes, and the organizer saying, "Do you have a book we can sell at the back of the room?" You see the people that are getting quoted in the press are those that have a book. A book elevates you. There's so many reasons to write a book. So you think, well, I want that. Well, okay, but the question, and this does have to do with not being taken advantage of, is
yeah.
why do you want to do it, and what do you want to do? So I can give a simple example. Let's say that what you want is to slap together some blog posts because you wrote a really great series of posts on some topic that is a topic everybody comes to you for, and you want to write a short book. Maybe it's going to be, let's just say, 30,000 words, and it's going to be a calling card for your pillar of the business that you run. And that's a great book. Why not have that book? You could
Mm.
hand it out for free. You could give it to all your clients. There's so many things you could do with a book like that. I was just talking to a team of people who have launched an innovative business in a very niche um, area, which is financial education for people who are getting divorced. And they have, right? Uh, but they
I
have
could
this.
use that class.
So they have this proprietary software, and I'm going to get it wrong, but let's just say that they've got 5 steps that you're supposed to work through. And I was talking to them, and they're trying to get out in front of this new. It's a kind of a fintech thing that they're doing, and they're trying to be the first, and they want to use the book to spread the word to therapists, because therapists are the people that are referring to them the most. So they want some national campaign to get therapists' attention, and they want to do it fast. So yeah, slap a book together with your 5 steps, get it in there so they want to give it out free to 10,000 therapists.
Mhm.
Do it fast, do it, quick, get it done. That's one use of a book, and it's a great use of a book. Does that book have to be the most insightful, the most deep, the most thought-provoking thing ever written? No, it does not. Right? uh, Contrast that with somebody who wants to write a book. I'll use another client example. I had somebody come to me who had a long and illustrious career in the world of food, a food
Mm,
corporate, top of the corporate pyramid for food companies. It's massive business. And she wanted to write what amounts to what I call a thought leadership book. So that
right.
means she wants to establish herself as the go-to person to talk about particularly retention, and retention at the lowest levels of the food world, and the opportunities that are available to people who stay in food, and the responsibility of the management to make their path better. And she goes really big, because the problems in that the food world touch on include everything from climate change to immigration to
Mm.
sustainability. There's big topics, and she wanted to go really big and put a stake in the ground and be the person, the go-to person. And so when we were talking with her, okay, why are you doing this? What's your goal? How is this book going to be used in your business? She envisioned big partnerships with big food companies where they would buy hundreds of copies of this book at a time, bring her in and do events and give the book out internally.
Mhm.
So this is a book that might never see a bookstore, but is going to be a massively big use in this person's business. Very different from that other kind of book I was talking about.
Right.
This is a book that actually came to pass. You can go look at it at Amazon. It's called A Taste of Opportunity. It took this author 2 years to write this book. She did tons of research. She did tons of interviews. She has amazing statistics. That's a really different book than the first one. So in terms of the question of excellence, or how do you not get taken advantage of, the first thing is know what you're asking for. Know
Right.
why you want to do this before you go in. Don't give up that power to somebody else, right?
Right. Yeah, because you want to make sure that when you speak with a coach, that they don't come at you with there's a one fits all solution, because one size fits all. Because I can tell you right now, every single book that I have ever run into is very different, especially if you have that voice preserved. I think it's also a good point too that you make. I know a lot of people, when they get into authoring, they fall into the pitfall of, I'm going to get into this and my goal is to sell X number of books so that I can make Y amount in royalties. But when they talk to somebody like you or I, and they talk about a nonfiction book and a book coach, like you said, there's ways to make money off of your book better than royalties that you can find, depending on what your why is on how to do that. So there then becomes where a coach becomes an accountability partner, not just in getting the book done, but also in figuring out the best market for the book.
I mean, most of the work that I do in the whole first phase of coaching is strategic planning
Mm-hmm.
and marketing, understanding what the marketing plan is going to be. You can't write until you know what the book is, how it's going to be used. And you're right. I would venture to say nobody should count on making money from the book. It's probably going to cost you to produce a book, to write and
Mm-hmm.
produce a book. If you haven't done it before and you're seeking help, it's going to cost, and it's going to be an investment and something that you have to set money aside for getting help writing, getting help producing, getting help probably marketing. And so then the question is, well, why would you do it, right? And then those are the other things. But most people do not make money on the book itself. Sometimes absolutely, and sometimes big money, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
but the publishers are looking for people who already have a platform and already
Mm-hmm.
have an audience. And usually if somebody is looking to write a book and they don't have that, they're trying to build the audience. So it's a kind of a catch 22 where,
Yeah.
right, you need the audience to sell the book, but you need the book to sell the audience. And so it's kind of just getting in the game and knowing what the rules are. So
Yeah.
in terms of what is excellence and what does that mean, to me it means helping the writer understand the landscape, helping them understand how a book works, how it might work in their universe, how they can take advantage of this tool. A book is basically just a tool, and centering their needs and their goals. And I agree with you. I would be wary of anybody that makes a promise that seems too good to be true, for one
Mm-hmm.
thing, and then for another thing says, well, this is the way. This is the one way and this is what you do, and then that's going to get you X. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Because I mean, our system we developed through trial and error by bringing in good people. That was how we created a system that worked. We found as many experts as we could outside that knew how to write these kind of books and knew how to give these kind of feedbacks to be able to engage in that process. And thereby, I think that we are in this business because traditional publishing did not provide the opportunity for new nonfiction authors the way that it needed to. Because you're right, you have to have a platform to get to traditional publishing. So that's why people are turning to hybrid publishing and self-publishing. they kind of see it as a cheat, but really isn't it just kind of another new first step?
I mean, the thing that I always say is that, I mean, I just said the book is a tool, but publishing is a tool. It's not
Yeah,
it's not the end. A lot of people think, oh, getting a big publishing deal is the goal. And it's like, no, it's not. The goal is getting a good book into the right people's hands to make an impact. And
right.
the reason that I started a book coaching business is because I saw that the nurturing of writers was getting squeezed out of traditional publishing, and nobody does it anymore. People are shocked. My clients are shocked that do go into traditional publishing at how little editing they get anymore, at how they're really expecting what I call camera ready manuscripts. So
Right.
the the um necessity of a writer to find their own nurturing system, that's just where we are in publishing. And no matter what your end goal is, whether you're going to self-publish, go with hybrid, go with traditional, I mean, there's so many great options now. That's We're in the golden age. You're right. It's
Yeah.
total
More option is best. Yes.
total Wild West times. There's many, many ways. There's no longer a gatekeeper who can keep you out. But what I always say is, okay, so what? You can publish a book. Don't write a bad one, because
Right.
it's very embarrassing if you're an expert in your field and you're well respected and you're doing this because you want more attention, more impact, all of those things. Don't write a book that's embarrassing to you, or that doesn't feel like you or sound like you or represent you. That's worse than not doing it at all. So, right.
And there's so many of our authors that have had that experience before too. They come to us, they finally say, all right, I know I need help now. But they put so much effort into that first book that they almost come to it when that second try jaded. So that's why
Yeah.
you really want to think about getting help before you ever really put pen to paper, because you don't want your first attempt to be one you're not happy with, to be one you got to go back and try a second time.
There are a lot of very bitter writers
I
out
know.
there who have tried something and had it not work, or had really false expectations about what other people were going to do for them, in terms of, a lot of people think, oh, if I get a publisher, I just sit back and they do everything. And
Yeah.
that is not true.
No, not even a hybrid.
I don't think it actually ever really was true.
No.
It's true for a tiny, tiny fraction of writers, people like Michelle Obama and
Oh yeah, I mean,
Stephen
if you're Elon
King.
Musk, then a
Yeah,
staff is going to come in and you can do it over dinner. I mean, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So the yeah, it's knowing what you want. It's knowing how you're going to use this book. It's knowing how it's going to function in your business. The thing that I always find remarkable is that entrepreneurs and business people and experts in their field would never launch a program or an initiative in their business without asking these questions. Why are we doing it? What's it going to get us? Who is it for? What's the competition? How does it fit into the marketplace? How are we going to market it? What's it going to do for us in 3 and 5 and 10 years? They would never do that in their business, but they do that with a book. And don't do that.
Well, and I think that the industry has trained people to think in that way, though. I mean, with the years and years that we've been doing this, it's like I say, the books that were written in the 80s, I mean, the books by Lee Iacocca and Richard Branson, stuff like that, they went through the same kind of system that we're using in hybrid. They just did it quietly and behind closed doors and didn't really
Right.
talk about it.
Right.
So yeah, it's not like anything has really radically changed. It's just that we're now democratized. We now have the platforms of social media and the ways in which we can now reach authors, and authors can reach people like us directly that are able to help.
And I mean, I'm not here to trash any path to publishing. They are
Oh
all
no, I will
right.
say this: there are many that traditional publishing is the best option for, and we've had
Right.
several that we've referred to traditional publishing. Absolutely.
Right. And they're all good if you're deliberate and intentional about why you're doing it and what you're doing and what the costs are and all of that, they're all good and they can be effective solutions. There's an effective solution out there. If you want a book, there's a way to do it that's going to be right for you. But no matter the path to publishing, you've got to write a book that
Yeah.
reflects what you want and functions in the way that you want it to.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole goal is to actually get and do it and and get it done the way that fits you best. So to that end, Jeannie, I mean we've had some really good information. What advice would you give to someone right now that's out there that's kind of fence sitting, that that maybe they even don't necessarily want to write the book themselves, but what would be a golden nugget? I use that term, just something that you feel that is applicable to just about anybody that listens to help them take that first step and get going.
Wow, a golden
I know
nugget.
the easiest. I know I love it. It's the easiest question I ask in the entire interview. Give us the best answer that only you can give. That's perfect and going to work for everyone.
I mean, it would have to be. I'm the author of a series of books that are called the Blueprint books, and one of them is Blueprint for a Nonfiction book. And the blueprint is 14 steps that you ask before you start to write. And in all the blueprints, whether it's for fiction, nonfiction, or memoir, question number one is, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And the why, the golden nugget is going to be, there's two parts to the why. One is external. What do you want to get externally from doing this book? It could be money, it could be fame, it could be recognition, validation, all of those external things. And then the most important part is the second part of the why, which is internal, and that is, why are you doing it for you inside? Is it to prove to yourself that you can? Is it to prove to somebody else that you can? Is it to right an injustice? Is it, what is that internal motivation? Because that, I have found in my book coaching career, is the thing that you want to tap into when your motivation flags and you think, oh, this is going to take a long time, it's going to be expensive, it's going to, all the costs that it's going to incur to write a book. Your internal why is going to be the thing that propels you to actually finish it and do it. So if you can articulate your external why and your internal why, you are well on your way to writing a book that's going to be impactful.
I love it. And I completely agree with your answer on that. That's something that I actually say in my webinars, that Archimedes said that you can give me a big enough lever and I can move the world, and the why is your lever.
Love it.
So Jeannie, you and I are complete in agreement. So if anybody was wanting to maybe talk to you further, engage with you, see if maybe get some book coaching help, how can they find you?
I would say first go to jennienash.com, which is JennieNash.com/viable. And I have an hour-long video on there about what makes a book commercially viable. It has nothing to do with how you're going to publish it or how you're going to write it. It just has to do with, does it make sense for me to do this right now? What are some of the things I should be thinking about? And so it's JennieNash.com/viable. I think it's a great way to start if you're thinking, yeah, I think I want to do this. It really grounds you in, it's a 6-step test. And if you can pass those 6 things, you're good to go. And then you can start looking at your why and hammering out those foundational things you need to either go get a ghostwriter and tell them what you want and why, or work with the book coach, same thing, what you want and why.
Wonderful. All right. Well, Jeannie, wonderful. Hopefully some people will click through on that, and maybe some of them will end up working with both of us.
Well, thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Well, Jeannie, we wish you the best. It was a pleasure having you, and we will speak with you very soon in the future.
Thank you so much.